Over the past 35 years, Mario has been a lot of things. A plumber, a doctor, a race kart driver, an athlete, and even a board game participant. But my favourite would have to be an RPG protagonist. Originally appearing in Super Mario RPG all the way back on the Super Nintendo Entertainment System in 1996, Mario later appeared in several RPG spin-offs, some of which rendered him as a single sheet of paper. To raucous applause just this year, Paper Mario the Origami King, developed by Intelligent Systems, was announced for the Nintendo Switch and released not that much later. However, having changed many of the conventions found in previous titles, even going so far as to remove the experience system, is it worth playing? I wholeheartedly say yes, so listen closely because I'm going to tell you why. We play as Mario, a plumber and princess rescuer by profession. If you have played any of the Mario games, you know the drill. The game begins as Mario and Luigi are heading towards Toad Town to attend an origami festival. When they arrive, things are eerily silent with nary a Toad to be seen. Entering the castle, the party is met by Princess Peach, who looks a bit torn and like she's folded her cards. She provides Mario with some cryptic questions, whose answers lead him to being dropped into the dungeon. Here, Mario finds a young floating origami named Olivia, and the two team up to try and find out just what the hell is going on. Escaping from the dungeon with a compromised Bowser in tow, the party is confronted by Ollie. The self-appointed king of the Origami Kingdom calls forth massive coloured streamers that encircle the castle, lifting it from its very foundation. Barely escaping, thanks to one of Bowser's minions, the clown car they are escaping in is hit by a streamer, and everyone is scattered. Thus begins the quest to snip the streamers and reclaim the castle. At first glance, you may think that this is like any other Paper Mario title, but you would be slightly incorrect in this regard. As mentioned earlier, there is no experience gained through battle, so running into the various folded soldiers won't afford you any long-term rewards, other than confetti and coins that are easily replenished in other ways. Don't let this dishearten you though. Even though the RPG mechanics have been stripped away, this is a good game. What really appealed to me was the attention to detail that Intelligent Systems put into not just the narrative, but also the various characters, objects, locations, everything. The game felt like a real inhabited world, and I celebrated the highs and cried at the lows along with Mario and his friends as I went along the journey with them. Whilst running in the field, Mario has two abilities that can help him navigate the environment. First is his natural ability to jump. You can use this to climb to higher ground, as well as to hit things with his head from beneath. The other tool that he has at his disposal is his trusty hammer, which can be used to pound just about anything in the field. If something looks suspicious, be sure to smack it with your hammer, as it may just be the solution you were looking for. Hidden throughout the world are many toads that have been either folded into origami or become stuck as they tried to hide from Ollie's folded soldiers. Using all the resources Mario has at his disposal, you can rescue these toads, one by one, which will grant you benefits in battle, as well as sometimes provide you with items for your quest, such as a max heart that will increase your maximum health. Sometimes you may come to an impasse where it seems like there is no way to proceed. In these instances, a bit of careful investigation of the environment will reveal a small yellow glowing orb that sets a glyph into the floor. When activated, this glyph becomes the 1000 fold arms technique. This technique turns Mario's arms into a tool that can change the makeup of the surrounding landscape. Using the controller's motion axis, you must move Mario's arms until you can find a spot in the ground that you can rip away, or pound upon, to reveal the path forward. This isn't the only glyph that can be used, however. During your adventures, you will encounter the Developmentals, beings of great power that control the elements. Their techniques can be imparted to Olivia, who can then also change the environment in ways such as lowering the earth or filling in an empty river with a flood of water. There are many pitfalls to be avoided when running around the Mushroom Kingdom, some of which weren't there before Ollie's invasion. If you happen to notice an indiscreet hole with support wires snaking within the darkness, you'd better seal that up before you inadvertently fall in. You can do this by scattering confetti that you have collected from hitting various environmental objects, as well as from defeated folded soldiers. Sealing up these holes grants Mario a small allotment of coins, but even more so, It adds to the completion percentage of the area that you are in. Some of the holes can be tucked away, or even so large that your confetti may run out when trying to plug them up. It pays to be vigilant and mash away at everything with your hammer so that you can make sure you're always in full supply of confetti. Enemies roam around the various lands in the form of folded origami soldiers. I have mentioned earlier that these are called folded soldiers due to having been folded from their flat sheet into something more menacing. If you run into any of these enemies, you will be immediately taken to a battle screen. Battles are turn-based, but they are also on a timer. If you've been following me for a while, you will know that I hate time-based mechanics in games. For me, they often induce sweaty palms and anxiety. The battle stage is like Shakespeare's theatre in the round, with grandstands circling the entire battlefield. Center stage, of course, is Mario, with the enemies all lined up in different positions on a circular grid spanning outward from our hero. In a limited number of turns, you can rotate the rings either horizontally or vertically to change the position of the enemies. The goal is to have all enemies lined up either in a column to be successfully jumped upon, or within a hammer's attack radius so that you can take them all out in one hit. Doing this will also grant you a bonus of 1.5 damage to your attack for that turn. Initially, the game presented itself as a puzzle that had to be solved every battle, but this soon gave way to other tools that made these battles far easier to deal with. For starters, if you need some more time on the clock, you can hold the start button to feed your coins into a timer. If you're like me and don't want to get nervous having a timer hovering over your head, you can cheer by holding Y, which through the promise of wealth will convince the toads in the grandstands to help Mario out. Depending on how much you give them, they may complete the puzzle for you, damage the enemies slightly, give you items, or even restore your health. How helpful! Shame you had to pay them for it though. There are also several boots and hammers that Mario can equip that will change the amount of damage he does. Additionally, there are items that can also turn the tide of battle, such as power blocks or fire flowers that benefit Mario during his adventure. At certain points during your journey you will gain companions, mostly in the form of Bowser's minions that haven't been folded into origami. They can attack the enemy, but you cannot control them directly. You shouldn't rely on them too heavily, as their attacks can sometimes fail. My personal favourite companion was Kamek. His magic decimated almost anything and rarely failed. Shame I couldn't rely on him for the entire game. Whilst we're on the topic of companions, I must say that I really enjoyed that we got to see a different side to Bowser's minions that we don't typically get to see. I really felt for Bobby, Kamek, and even Bowser. Then there's the other minions that don't join you in battle like Bowser Jr. I was really cheering for them all, the whole way through. I love when the series dares to be different and has the entire Mushroom Kingdom teaming up together against a foreign threat, rather than the typical narrative of Mario and Toad Town against basically everything else. One of the examples of how nice it was to see these interactions was the sparse scattered minion cafes that you could sometimes find, where you could sit back, listen to some jazz, down a coffee and just talk like normal people with the minions. It was such a normal, slice of life moment and really humanized the creatures that we often perceive as monsters on our way to save Princess Peach. Sometimes you will be forced to face much larger adversaries that pose a bigger threat than the basic folded soldier. As these enemies are too big to fit in a single space on the board surrounding Mario, the battles play out a little differently. Rather than Mario being in the center, the boss is, and Mario needs to plot a path to it using arrow symbols on the board. You must rotate the board rings to enable Mario to get to an attack space that will allow him to lay the smackdown on the enemy. However, depending on the boss, it's not always that simple. Sometimes you need to use specific developmental abilities to even allow you to deal damage to the enemy. Some battles also have specific mechanics that make them more difficult, like a tape dispenser sticking panels of the board together, or a hole punch taking a piece out of Mario's face, effectively lowering his maximum HP. You can cheer in these battles like in normal ones, however the toads will not move the rings for you. Instead, they will grant you a visual representation that shows where Mario will end up when you choose to end your turn. I found that I ended up using this function a lot, especially on the Ice Developmental that used the Ice Maze trick. Outside of normal battling, there are also more action-orientated encounters where you'll fight large paper mache enemies on the field screen using your hammer. Each paper mache soldier has a weak spot denoted by a sticker that you need to whack off them. Whack this off and then you can wail on them until they turn into confetti. Though do be careful, as some of these enemies have attack patterns that make them invulnerable to damage, even after you've whacked the stickers off them. Some of these battles I found to be more enjoyable than the standard battles, such as the one in the desert against the giant Pokey. There is also a small arena in the Great Ocean that pits you against a number of these battles in consecutive fashion. I found it to be an adequate challenge and quite fun. Mario and Olivia's adventure will take them all over the Mushroom Kingdom, though thankfully they won't have to walk the entire way. My personal favourite method of transportation was the boot car that called back to the boot-inhabiting Goomba from Super Mario Bros. 3. The boot car made getting across the sandpaper desert a cinch, not to mention that you could run into enemies with the turbo ability and completely decimate them without even having to enter a battle. The Great Ocean ship and submarine was also a nice feature, and that entire section put to mind aspects of The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker. Again, in every aspect of the game, charm just exudes from every pore. I was always amazed. When I first booted up the game and my partner saw me playing, he exclaimed, "It's actually all paper?" And it's true. The entire world of Origami King comprises of some type of paper. I really liked this as it was distinctly unique from many of the other games I played. The trees being bits of ripped paper, to even the water in the ocean being shifting sheets, was amazing. Every location is visually distinct, so the game never became boring to look at. My personal favourite area was Sniff City during the night, with its neon glow and dubious nature, where the Sniffets had moved into a deserted desert town and just decided to claim it as their own. And Olivia's transformation scenes where she unfolds herself and then folds into a Developmental was always a sight to see. The soundtrack is surprisingly varied compared to what I would expect from a typical Mario game. Each area has a distinct musical flair, such as the Japanese-sounding Shogun Studios to the Arabic Middle Eastern-influenced Sandpaper Desert. I loved them all. I also must mention the music for the last dungeon, which is such an orgasm, and prepares you for what is to come at the end. There are also a variety of battle themes throughout, keeping the entire experience fresh. In fact, the entire soundtrack is quite large, sporting over 240 tracks, so I'm sure there's going to be at least one you like. My personal favourite this time around is a battle theme. It's called Developmental Battle and plays whenever you fight one of the great elemental forces. The theme just gets the adrenaline pumping and puts you in the mood to lay it out on that naughty paper. When it was announced that there were vast changes to the mechanics of Paper Mario Origami King in comparison to the previous games in the Paper Mario series, many people were alarmed. However, as I find is often the case, most of the alarm was unfounded due to the concerned individuals not having played the game themselves. Origami King, in the end, didn't need an experience system or a typical battle system to be rendered fun. The amount of charm that it exudes through the narrative and the characterization of the various characters was enough to carry me right through to the end. I can genuinely say that I enjoyed my entire time with this game and would recommend anyone that is sitting on the fence about it to go pick it up now. By the way, Origami King has such a unique art aesthetic that makes it really stand out from other titles. Are there any games that you have played that have unique art styles that add to the experience rather than detract from it? Let me know in the comments. This has been Venoir with a review of Paper Mario the Origami King for the Nintendo Switch. If you enjoyed this video and are looking forward to more, please feel free to like and subscribe as it helps me out a bunch. As always, thanks for watching and I look forward to seeing you all again next time. Bye bye for now.